Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Unpopular celebrities, as everybody's getting in the building for a Thursday night podcast. Chief. Oh, I ain't got my Streamlabs up.
You got caught short. You got caught short, partner.
That's crazy. Why my stuff not up? That's crazy.
That's why you got to have all your gears squared away, partner.
There you go. There you go. Thursday, or Wednesday. Shoot, today's Wednesday. Wednesday podcast. Wednesday. I got to get my days together. Every day seems like a Friday. Maybe for me. What's up with you?
That's
so funny.
That is true.
Anyway, won't delay any further. We got this guest for a little over an hour today, so I won't want to delay it any further. If y'all read as y'all coming into the show, we'll get a lot more people as we always come on as per usual, waiting for the algorithm to catch up. But we have a special guest, two-time. I ain't got my echo together or nothing. Two-time guest to the show of Unpopular Celebrities.
You know, you should have let me just do it, man.
Okay, go ahead. You can do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unpopular Celebrities, the podcast that is for you. We highlight shows every single week or every other week on Sundays. You catch us on YouTube, you catch us on Facebook, Instagram, all your social media, and Apple Podcasts. But enough about that. We got a special treat for you today. We have a two-time guest in our midst. I'm sure you know him. And for those that may not know him, you're going to get to know him today. We have the one and only Major General Thomas Tank Sherman in the house, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey.
Welcome to the building. Welcome to the building.
Right on.
Sir.
General, that's why he's on the show, to pick up where I fumble at. Sometimes I fumble. I need somebody to pick up. That's what he's there for.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
Great being here with you guys again.
Oh, love to have you back. It's excellent to have you back. Appreciate the time that we're taking out for our day to bring you back. First of all, we got to talk about the background because it looks immaculate.
Oh, yeah.
And before we got on, I thought it was an AI background. I really did. But the background is phenomenal.
Yeah, this is pretty good living out here on the United States Air Force Academy. So this is, I mean, housing is set up dynamite. I mean, we're just right in the middle of a forest. And so I was telling you before, I was sitting having coffee the other morning, and probably a 300 and something pound bear just came walking on the other side of the fence, just minding his own business, just cruised on by. I just watched him go. There's just all kinds of stuff we got out here. Wild turkeys, deer, elk, bobcats, mountain lion, bears. It's a fantastic place.
And it sounds like the weather's beautiful because out here we just hit 120 today. So we're a little warm. We're a little warm out here. So
cooking. Today is that perfect Colorado weather. I mean, it's dry. It's right now at this time of day, I think we're like not even quite 80, but we're getting close.
Very jealous.
Yeah, it's pretty dynamite.
Right. But like we said, second time on the show is great to have you. First time was phenomenal. We learned a lot about you, and everybody can go back and rewatch as we move into the second version of you, having you on here. So like we said, we appreciate you coming on Unpopular Celebrities as we still try to keep this train going.
So I'm proud of you guys and glad to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
First thing we're talking about, I know you said that you are only going to be here for today, and then you're taking a trip tomorrow, kind of trip that nobody really wants to take ever. But, these things happen, and, just kind of want you to go ahead and talk about what happened. And sorry already for the passing and kind of just going from there.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. I really appreciate it. So I think people have heard me before when I've spoken, and any folks that have seen me kind of out and about, I oftentimes really talk about how incredibly proud I am to be married to a Chief Master Sergeant's daughter. And, I'm kind of sorry to inform, and we've been living through this for the past couple of weeks. My father-in-law, Chief Master Sergeant Sal DiMatteo, passed away here a couple of weeks ago after a pretty long battle with Parkinson's disease. And, we at least inside feel a sense of peace that he's not suffering anymore. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they made such an incredible impact on me is, first off, My father-in-law was the first chief I ever knew. Lori and I dated while I was at the Air Force Academy, and so all the mentorship that was taking place around the DiMatteo dining room table helped to shape me. And in a great part, her mom and dad helped to guide me into the security police career field, because what they were instilling in me was like the value of the enlisted force. And if you'll permit me to just kind of share just a couple snippets on
Please.
just the contribution he made. So he started out as a CE guy at a Strategic Air Command base in Salina, Kansas, working in the CE squadron at a B-47 base. He ended up doing 2 tours in Vietnam, one tour there with Red Horse and the other tour with Prime Beef. And I mean, they were at places like Tan Son Nhut building revetments and fortifying the base. And obviously, anybody in our career field knows the importance of Tan Son Nhut. What was wild is when I took my dad back to Vietnam in 2016, and we landed at Tan Son Nhut because that's the international airport. And no kidding, like the revetments were still there, and the Vietnamese Air Force still had fighter aircraft parked in it. But I think where his contribution was really laid in is he got into PME completely. And when they were stationed out at Sembach Air Base back in the 1970s, he was working at the leadership school there, doing what would have been equivalent to kind of ALS right now. It was a little bit different back then, but I'd say equivalent to ALS. And Chief Gaylord was the chief master sergeant for USAFE at the time. So he was the SEL for USAFE. And he went and pulled my father-in-law out of the leadership school and said, Sal, I need you to put an NCO academy together for me. So no kidding, Chief Gaylord gave my father-in-law like a line of accounting. He got a team together, and my father-in-law set up the Kissing NCO Academy up at Capone in Germany in the 1970s. So the buildings that that people have been in, the location, everything was all a part of his doing back then.
Wow.
And he opened up a second NCO Academy at RAF Upwood in the 1980s, right by Alconbury. It doesn't exist anymore. What was pretty cool is when I was a training group commander at Lackland, Chief Gaylord was talking at our wing awards banquet, and he's got a memory on him like a steel trap.
Right.
So I went up to talk to him, and I said, "Hey, Chief," I said, "I'm gonna throw a name at you that you have not heard in a long time." And I said, "Do you remember Sal DiMatteo?" And in typical Chief Gaylord fashion, "Of course I know Sal DiMatteo. He did blah blah blah," and like goes through his whole biography. And I said, "Hey, Chief, I just wanted to let you know I married his youngest daughter." And he's like, "I remember you when you were just a little girl with curly hair." I mean, just the whole 9 yards. And where I thought it was really neat was the testament to the Air Force family. And so he actually had Lori stand up and said, "Hey, I want to talk to you about an Air Force family," and just kind of recounted the story of my father-in-law and mother-in-law. And Lori is now, married to a training group commander here, and the legacy of that family just continues. And so, those are the kind of things that just really warm my heart, but really just wanted to kind of give my father-in-law, who was just so important to me, just a little bit of tribute here on Unpopular Celebrities as we go forward. And thanks for permitting me the time to do that.
No, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those moments. And of course, my condolences to yourself, and of course, Miss Lori. Always a member of my heart and my family. So for Miss Lori as well, I really feel bad, and for you as well, I have to go face that. But like you said, got to move on and moving on from it, and hopefully he's in a better place. Definitely in a better place. And
absolutely,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Chief,
it's what a way to leave a legacy like that behind. I mean, here you are, Bob Gaylor. I'm sure everyone knows as a defender himself. They called me a security policeman back in the day. But to get the cosign from the Bob Gaylor, who also passed away about a year or two ago, and then to set up a enlisted professional military education center to help enlisted members get the type of education they need to be better leaders. And to this day, to still have folks go in and out those facilities today. So what a way to leave a legacy behind. So again, likewise, my condolences to you, Miss Lori, and we're gonna celebrate his memory for the things he's done while he was here. So
thanks.
Safe travels definitely to Kansas and everything. As we're moving on with this, it's kind of hard to transition to moving on to the academy. So that's where you're at now, right? Vice superintendent of the academy. You said you went to the academy graduate, and I just want to share me personally. Growing up in Modesto, California, I never heard of the Air Force Academy except for the football team. That was the only time the Air Force Academy came up was the football team. So I didn't know how to get into the Air Force Academy or anything. And now being in the military for more than 20 years, I learned a lot about academy grads. And the academy grads that we bring in, I just want to hear kind of the differences between the academy and the OTS route and how to get into either one.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to share a little bit of that. First off, wow, what an honor it is to be back here. Like, this place is where it all started for me. And, you know, my foundation of service going back to my childhood and this belief that I needed to serve the country, and then finding out about the academy when I was 12. And I literally just worked all the way through junior high and high school to get here. This place helped to give me the foundation that I needed to be the officer and the leader that I am right now. And it was because of how it was set up, the exposure to stress, the fact that they would give us challenge sets and scenarios and even just life that was beyond what you thought you could possibly do. And they take you all the way up to that point where you think you are at your breaking point, and then all of a sudden you go past it. And it just, the sense of encouragement that it gives you, self-confidence, courage, those things like that. I mean, for me, this was absolutely a pivotal part of my development, both as an officer and as a person. And so obviously getting a chance to be back here in this capacity, Lori and I have been trying to come back here for 20 years because I just really had this obligation to want to come back and be a part of the development of these future Air Force leaders. And we can get into that development here in a little bit. But let me get to your question. I really think the three commissioning sources that we have, the United States Air Force Academy, Officer Training School, and Reserve Officer Training Corps, all three of them are incredibly important, because what the three of them give us is officers that come from a slightly different perspective in that developmental process. So if we look at the Air Force Academy, it is really, you know, to use the term all-consuming might sound a little bit negative. It's not. You are vested, immersed in this environment nearly 24/7, you know, with a little bit, you know, occasionally on the weekends or passes or things like that. But I mean, you are immersed in this. And the opportunities that you have here that are available to you, that the taxpayers are helping us to utilize to fund soaring. And we have, you know, cadets have an opportunity to soar, get a chance to go out and, you know, free fall parachute out of an airplane and get your parachute wings, to learn survival skills and so forth. So a lot of opportunities that you are immersed in that is a part of the training design. Where I think sometimes the feedback comes back, you know, for those of us that have lived it or people that are receiving these officers, is that where they've got a really great foundation in professional and experiential development, where they might be lacking is on personal development. Because you are in such a controlled space, that a lot of the life lessons that you're learning at a place like Reserve Officer Training Corps. So if you're going to ROTC, you're immersed in a more traditional university environment with an Air Force detachment that helps to do that training. But it's not, you're not immersed in it every day, all day long. And so what that does is it provides a little bit of a difference in balance, in that a lot of the like life maturity that is being developed by those particular cadets coming out of that program, I think sets them up in a different way from their academy counterparts, in that they've gotten a chance to understand the experience of life, how you're living on your own, and just maybe kind of how you're interacting on a human level in the world. Where OTS, I think, is incredibly important for us, is that OTS is often a venue for people that serve. And then they come in through officer training school already with a degree in hand, maybe some professional, you know, experience on the outside, or even some, you know, some of the skilled trades and things like that, that they are now transitioning and carrying that into the Air Force and Space Force. And so what I like about this triad of commissioning sources is you get a very unique experiential difference between the three, that when you're coming together and bringing these lieutenants at the place they need to be at the moment we put those bars on them. I think the important aspect of that is that now we've got not just a cohort of officers who have all had the same experience, but now we've got officers that can relate to our airmen and our NCOs at a very different level, and each of them brings a unique skill set with them. Now, to get into those locations, Officer Training School has its own application process, which you go through AETC, and you can actually work through your Air Force recruiter on that. The Air Force Academy, conversely, by actually just accessing the website for our admissions office, there's a whole process by which you'll go through to send in your initial letters of interest, and then that opens the door to communication. Because for the Academy, you've got to get a congressional nomination prior to getting accepted to the institution. Okay. So there's a multi-step process that you need to go through to get here. And then ROTC as well has its own particular websites and apps that you can access. And it's basically the part of getting that application turned into the ROTC offices, going through their screening process, getting accepted to both the university and ROTC, and then that's how the scholarship process works for them.
Right.
So I have to ask, in my travels, I've always heard the stigma between Academy grads, OTS grads, and ROTC grads. Is there a stigma, or is it like just a perception? What do you think?
So I think that it was more so probably 30 years ago. I think our Air Force has matured considerably from the time that I graduated. And so, by the way, I just hit 30 years a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
That is something else.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think our Air Force has matured because I think that the stigma was more so then with the whole ring knocker mentality and things like that for Academy graduates. And I mean, some of that still exists today, but I think that stigma was a little bit more prevalent. And I think that there was very much a little bit more of I would say it was a little bit more of an adversarial approach than it was maybe nowadays a little bit of healthy rivalry. I think that post 9/11, and I think that our conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, where officers had to depend on each other, oftentimes working I mean, think about Bagram. At Bagram, I had a complete mixed bag of officers. I had OTS graduates, I had ROTC graduates, and I had Academy graduates. And they had to work together in their sectors, and they had to work together inside and outside of the wire. And I think the important part is that they saw themselves as brothers and sisters leading the fight. And I think that those experiences help to bring down, I think, the negativity of the stigma. Nowadays, I'd put it more in that healthy rivalry. And I think that's okay. We can all have a little bit of fun with each other,
fair.
make some jokes here and there. I think that's all goodness. But I think that stigma has changed. Now, what I will say, because people say, well, which one's better than the other? At the end of the day, my heart's here because that's my experiential journey. But what I will say is that it comes down to the character of the leader. It comes down to the character of the leader. And that character that person will carry with them is going to determine which commissioning source did right by them and how are they using the skills to help be the best, most sincere leader they can for the airmen and guardians that deserve them. And I use the term deserve very deliberately. It's not just the leaders that they need. It is the leaders that they deserve. And we have an obligation at places like this, ROTC detachments and OTS down at Maxwell. We have an obligation to give them our absolute best.
Fair.
Man, right. I get a little fired up about. Clearly, I get a little fired up.
Yeah, love it. So, if anybody has any questions in chat, please fire them in there. If it's a good question, we'll ask them. If it's not, we'll ignore it. But moving on.
And Pete, if we
viewers
we
are
can't blame
dropping
you for anything but being honest.
That's exactly.
The viewers are dropping.
Oh, and then Chief Jackson's in the building, the first one, of course.
Right on.
But a real quick question. You said about people in the academy, they might not have the personal growing up as far as the academy grads in that aspect of the OTS, maybe came from the enlisted side. And in basic training for me, it's all about teamwork and
Yep.
building each other up
Yeah.
and, you know, kind of breaking us down as a unit and then building us up as a
Yeah.
unit. I know you had an amazing father-in-law that you just talked about that probably helped you with a lot of those analogies as far as enlisted and how we handle.
Yeah.
What's going on in the academy now to try to bridge that gap with personalities and try to relate?
So I think let me kind of define that a little bit more. I think when I'm talking about maybe some of those life skills, I think is what it's more
Yes,
about.
sir.
Almost kind of like, you know how we've got, you know, you've got A1Cs that are in the dorm and they're on a meal card, and so they've got a roof over their head. They've got a meal card that they can go to the dining facility with, and so a lot of those things, rightfully so, are taken care of for them.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, for our cadets, we've got the dormitory complex here, both at Vandenberg and Cy John Hall. We've got Mitchell Hall, which is our dining facility. And so those things are at their fingertips, and it's a part of the program. They're provided for you. And so it's about, okay, how do I make sure I'm paying my rent properly? How do I set automatic payments up on my bank accounts? How do I make sure my insurance is getting paid and all of those kind of things? That's the area where we see some of the biggest learning curves when they're out. Now, from an interpersonal skills standpoint here, that is a pretty important foundation on what we're trying to teach them through what we're developing as a 4-class system.
Okay.
And so when you're looking at a 4-class system, you're looking at what we call our 4 degrees, which are our freshmen. What we want them to focus on is followership. That's it. We've got to build that foundation of what it means to receive an order, execute the order, circle back around when the order is complete, ask for questions or clarifications if they're not clear, and learn how to have the humility to learn how to follow. The next year, in our sophomore year, our 3 degrees, we're focusing them, kind of think of it as like the ALS kind of time frame for them,
Okay.
is that we're focusing them on how do we teach you to be a frontline supervisor, and you are responsible for one individual. That individual is one 4th-class cadet, one freshman cadet that you're responsible for. So what we're now trying to teach them is, okay, how do you deal with managing both, you know, corrections and accountability, standards, helping them if they're having a challenge with their homework or whatnot, to how do we get them to the right resources, so that we're teaching that really a 19 or 20-year-old, like legitimately, how do you care for the life of one human being? Then we go to what we call our 2 degree, our junior year, and we're starting to teach them about NCO and senior NCO-ship. How do you start having responsibilities for programs like the Squadron Stan-Eval program? You're the Stan-Eval NCO. Let's say you're the Squadron First Sergeant. Let's say that you're an element leader or a flight sergeant. And so now we're teaching you on a grander scale. How do we start teaching you team-sized leadership? How do we start teaching you program responsibility? And then how do you manage that so that you are educating as an NCO, educating your sophomore, your 3 degree cadets, how to be a frontline supervisor. Meanwhile, you're also looking up the chain to the 1st-class cadets, the seniors, on legitimately in their officership roles, what do they need to be provided for advice, guidance, and support? And then that transcends to the last year, in which we've got our 1st-class cadets, our seniors, and that is about officership and command. And so we're looking on large-scale leadership, squadron command. Our NCAA Division I athletic teams, like our team captains, get squadron commander credit for that, because that is such an important aspect of leadership on those fields. Large club leadership and stuff like that. Like, that's how we start to teach this officership level at that place. So that's kind of like the developmental model that we've been working through over the last year here. And so I'll pause if you've got any questions or if I could do any clarification.
No, that spot on, perfect. I didn't know about the credits that they get for being D1 college captains. That's spot
Absolutely
on. Yeah, that's spot on. So no.
How do you get selected for that position? Do they just select you, or is there a process? Or
the coaches have a process by which, so we've got 3 main pillars here at USAFA. We've got the military training pillar, which is focused on the professional development side. Almost think of it as the accession training, the PME side of the house. Then we've got the academic pillar, which think of it as the university side. So every cadet that graduates with a Bachelor of Science degree in one of about 30 different academic majors that we offer. And what we're trying to do in that aspect is like, how do we teach academic prowess and critical thinking skills here? Because the better that we can expose them to critical thinking skills, the more agile they're going to be when we have them, when we commission them and send them out to the field. And then the last area is our academic pillar. And so you want all of these pillars to be more or less equal. At different times, some will raise and lower. But the athletic pillar, what I like about it is the athletic pillar teaches a couple important things. Number one, it teaches a lot of self-confidence. Number two, what the athletic pillar teaches is it teaches people how to go from 1 second to being a leader on the field if you're running the play to immediately having to go into a support role as a follower and switch back and forth. And I think that's important for them to understand is that the reality is while the play is in progress, you can't always be the leader, because sometimes the leader is going to avail themselves at the moment because they're at a critical point in the play and they either take the ball, kick the ball, hit the puck or whatnot at the right time that it's needed. And so that's how switching back and forth, I think, teaches them a little bit of humility, and it also teaches them some leadership agility. So for our NCAA teams, our coaches are an important part of that. Our athletic department staff is an important part of that, and the players are an important part of that. And so that's how those team captains get availed in one of our about 30 NCAA teams that we have here.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I didn't play NCAA while I was here, but probably the favorite intramural sport that I played, because every cadet's going to have to do something. Like there is an important leadership aspect that's learned there. I loved rugby. The first season I played rugby while I was here, I had no idea what the rules were or what I was doing. I just listened to the direction that I was given. And then the second year I was playing it, I actually got a little bit more finesse for the game, and I had a really great time with it.
So since you played rugby, I would assume you're a fan of the coveted tush push play for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's where we got it from, rugby.
That is just, I'm not sure that play was around back in the early 90s. I feel like that's like an early thousands play, honestly.
You know what, Jeremy?
Now, quickly, I want to ask you, you said, now, your call sign is Tank.
Yes.
But you said you didn't play Division I football when you were in the academy. Is that correct?
Right. I did not.
So how did you get Tank? Like Tank, I'm thinking linebacker.
Right.
What happened there?
So, I think it's a little bit of a play on words and a couple different things. So I actually got the call sign of Tank when I was in Afghanistan as the Defense Force commander out there in 12 to 13. And it was actually the wing commander and vice wing commander that gave me this name. So I think it was twofold. Number one, it's a little play on the Sherman tank. Number two, I think there was a little bit of personality involved, because at the end of the day, there wasn't going to be a challenge or a problem that if I just need to, we're just going to roll through it. Mm-hmm. And so I think they kind of saw a couple sides of that, from the personality side to a little bit of a play on words. But I'm proud of that because, number one, I got it from a couple pretty respected aviators that I had a chance to work for. So getting a call sign from them was a big deal. Number two, for the reasons that they gave it and what we were doing in Afghanistan, I think the name really applies even more so to the squadron than the individual. And so I'm happy to carry that around with me. And it's the funny thing about it is, like, that's how everybody in the Pentagon knows me.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
We have Alexis Oliver. She's one of my lieutenants in my squadron. She's an academy grad, I think, 2022. I believe she's going to kill me if that's wrong. But yeah, 2022 academy grad. So I always like to talk to her about the academy because, like I told you, for me, it's a foreign place. This thing is like the Wizard of Oz. Yeah. Like I didn't know it existed, and even what goes on there. But I got to ask, what's the percentage of people that come in there that want to be pilots or that have the aspiration to be pilots? Thinking that it's an Air Force Academy, they're probably thinking, oh, I get to fly planes or be pilots.
I think we got a pretty high percentage, and as we talked last time, even from my journey, like that was what brought me here. And we understand, especially during those times, like what puts the Air in Air Force. But I want to put a fine point on something. This isn't just the Air Force Academy. It's also the Space Forces Academy.
Right.
And so we are graduating both Air Force officers and Space Force officers here, which I think is an important piece. I would say, so just kind of, if I was just to kind of give this a wag and just kind of using anecdotal on how many cadets I talked to and things like that, I mean, I think we're looking at probably 60% or so coming in or having aspirations of going to pilot training.
Right.
What's interesting is that when I came in back in the 90s, it was probably like, 95%.
Right.
That goes to that whole maturing part that I talked about, that I think that there has been, the Air Force has done a very good job on sharing the importance of leadership in a variety of different roles. And I think what we've also done is we've done a better job on highlighting the leadership of our combat support officers and our combat service support officers and how they play into the fight. I also think that again, the post 9/11 environment was a place that our leadership could be showcased in a way that I don't think it was showcased during the Cold War. And so because of that, we've got cadets that are coming in even more informed. The internet and a variety of different apps and environments that they can gain from, I think is helpful. So they're looking at things like, acquisitions, scientific career fields, engineering, things along those lines. And they see their place as contributing to the fight by being a part of one of these career fields that was lesser known in the years past. Matter of fact, we just brought on 6 security forces officers this year. We actually had them over the house and had local commanders and chiefs and stuff like that from the Front Range area. Lori and I cooked up a big meal for them. We actually gave them their first berets.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we gave them their first berets and told them, hold on to this. This is our gift and faith to you. And you take this with you to tech school because that's the beret we want you to put on your head.
Right.
And what we wanted to do was to welcome them in as a family and have them understand like that is probably our career field superpower, is really having this aspect on like family trains together, they fight together, they have a great time together, they bicker together, like all of the things that families do. But at the end of the day, you're family. Right. And you'll do anything for your family. And what was neat was seeing cadets coming into the house that may have been a little bit apprehensive. Some asked for it, and we had a couple that had a little farther down on the list. They still put it. And then they left, and they were glowing. And we got feedback from the squadrons that were like, hey, cadet so-and-so came back, and she is just motivated now about getting into the career field because the things that you were talking with her about, she had no idea.
Mm-hmm. I'll say, in a lot of career fields, officers are important, especially lieutenants, but in security forces, the importance of that officer, especially as a lieutenant, to ride around with the master sergeant or the flight chief and get to know what we do on an operational level and learn from the bottom, and then make their way up to commanders and be able to command. They already know what it's like to be on the gate, as we tell our airmen. We tell our airmen, like, I didn't just grow up in this flight chief role. Right. I actually had to do the stuff as well. I think lieutenants, especially in security forces, very vital, very, very vital.
And that's, I think it's so key. And that's why I am a huge fan of our lieutenants going to security forces groups out the gate, because getting a chance to be that flight commander and have like that level of leadership responsibility right out the gate is huge. And it ties directly into kind of, our charge here at USAFA is that the Air Force has told us is that we have got to create lieutenants that are ready to lead on day one. And day one is literally the day after we commission them. That is day one. Day 0 is the day we commission them. Day 1 is the day after that. Now, are they going to have the technical skills of the specialty they're going into? No. But did we at least train them? Did we at least give them the foundation of leadership so that if put in a situation, they would at least not be unfamiliar and have a little bit of self-confidence, a little bit of the character, a little bit of the courage that they need to have, that should they be placed in that position, that at least they've had the exposure on leading through the 4 years that got them there. And that's And that's something that we really hit that drum hard with the cadets that are here.
Chief.
And I'll jump in with one more thing real quick. I forgot to mention, there is a program here called the Academy Military Trainer, the AMT. These are NCOs and senior NCOs that are picked to come here and help be responsible as the command team to a cadet squadron. Mm-hmm. When I was a cadet, I was fortunate because I was dating a chief's daughter, so I was getting some of that mentorship around the table. But not every cadet has that. And so we didn't have NCOs in the squadrons. And so a lot of cadets were leaving, having never experienced what the NCO Corps does, let alone the value they bring to the force. And so, unfortunately, they're getting that exposure after they're commissioned. Some of them may not even get exposure to NCOs until well after they're into their first unit, at a flying squadron or something like that. And that is way too late to understand the value of what the NCO Corps brings. So now, having an Academy Military Trainer in every single cadet squadron means that cadets are getting exposure to the NCO Corps right out the gate. Mm-hmm. We also have MTIs that are here. They'll come out of an assignment at Lackland, and then they'll come here to USAFA. And the MTIs help bring that professional edge to things, especially during basic cadet training. So having this incredible cohort of NCOs that are here, I think it makes the academy a much, much better place.
No, yeah, such an awesome position. I actually wish I would have got that AMT position, but just assignment didn't line up, but everything works out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good you didn't.
I knew you were going to say that. I could just see it on your face as I was talking. I could just see it, and I was like, why not set myself up?
Chief just laid down.
They gave you your call sign. What call sign, since you know him so well, and you're about to do his retirement, shameless plug. What call sign would you give Pete?
I had too many call signs.
So there's so many call signs, but the one that comes to mind, and this may come up back in the when we get a chance to do his retirement, is like, does he work in this office?
Yeah.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Does he work here? Nope. No, he doesn't.
I thought you were gonna say ubiquitous. That's what. That's
well, that
what
too. I mean, that is a good one because you were ubiquitous, whether you were asked to be there or not.
Yeah, I would show up. Yeah, I'm there.
I love it.
It's crazy.
I mean,
okay.
You got to ask Mark Velasquez.
Oh yeah,
he up there too.
Mark Velasquez.
Yeah. He did say that a couple times. When we first met me, he's like, "Does he work here?"
Man.
I just love it.
I see your comments is not going to be very long about Pete, sir, during the ceremony.
That's crazy. Luckily, Chief Counsel will be there. Yay!
Oh, right. I'm
thrilled about that. We're all thrilled.
I'll be tame.
We'll get the shout out from the crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, but seriously, so I want to circle back to earlier. Obviously, you said you were married to your lovely bride who was the daughter of a chief, and so it's clear that everything you learned from her father as a chief affected your career. Different lessons you learned around the table, things of that nature. And so you also said in the academy, they bring in senior NCOs and NCOs to kind of intermix or help train the cadets to get them exposed to the enlisted. So, two-part question.
Yeah.
Tell me in your thoughts and your time of travels, being in 30 years, what makes a chief important to you? And then two, what do you feel, if any, is something chiefs are missing now that could make them more effective for airmen today?
So I think the thing that has always resided for me is that in anybody in the squadron, the group, the wing, there is nobody I should be able to trust more. There is nobody that I can be more vulnerable to. There is nobody that I should be more open to than my chief, above anybody else, above my commander, above anybody else. That chief, for me, is the most trusted person in that organization. And so for me, that's I mean, for folks that know me, I mean, Chief Steve Arbona and I at Wright-Patterson.
Steve Arbona, yeah.
Oh man, I mean, what an amazing human being to have as your chief. And what was great is that, Steve and I went back, 15 years before we were serving in that capacity. And I knew that Steve was going to have all of those qualities. And I think it's just like, if you can't have a trust relationship with your chief, the entire organization will see it and they will feel it. And so I think that that's the important part, is both, like, the commander needs to have the humility to be vulnerable to the chief. The chief needs to be able to have the sincerity to be honest to the commander and be the chief, but also know that if that chief isn't helping to foster that relationship, and if that chief is building their own kind of fan base in the organization without taking in consideration that, like, when the chief and the commander are together, holy cow, it is amplified by a magnitude of 10. Because that visible image of two people together that like each other, that the organization knows they get along, that when they speak, there is power in what they say together and power in what they say individually. I think that where it's often a challenge is you have got to have enough self-confidence in that role to know your value, but also know how the value is vectored and how your relationship is important. And I think sometimes, just like anything else, I would make the same criticisms of a colonel who's looking for 1 star, or like an 05 who's really looking to get colonel or so along the line, is that you become so target focused on what that next position is. Either, hey, I'm a baby colonel, I need to make group. I've got to do whatever I've got to do to make wing, or I've got to do whatever I've got to do to make command chief. And now I got to be at a tier 2. And then pretty soon you start getting consumed by what's next, and you stop paying attention to the people that need you, that are right in front of you. And I think that's where both senior officers and chiefs will fail, is all of a sudden their vision comes from the point where they're focused on what their responsibility is and what they're being asked to do. And next thing you know, their eyes are well up over the horizon saying, yeah, but what do I got to do to make tier 2? Or what do I got to do to get on the candidate list? Or what do I got to do to become a wing commander? And you start asking the questions. If you have to ask the question, what do I have to do to be a wing commander? What do I have to do to be a command chief? You're asking the wrong questions. Because how it should be is, how can I be the best I can for the people that need me right now? And if I don't care what happens after that, then my sincerity and my leadership will be seen. And that's how you get to your next assignment, is being dang good at where you're at and caring for the people that where you're at, and knowing what your responsibility is. Because the moment that you're trying to look a step to 2 steps ahead, and that's where your focus is, that's the moment you will let your people down at the worst possible time.
Facts. Hey, concur 100%. I agree. I think you made a good point. It's hard for folks to get in those leadership positions and not think about what's next, instead of concentrating what's in front of them. And what you said was so key. I tell chiefs all the time, a commander and chief's relationship is similar to Jordan and Pippen. Doesn't matter how good you are not Jordan, you're Pippen. You're there to support. So in the end, when you leave out that door, you should be able to tell your commander, like, your thoughts, like, hey, I think this is the wrong thing to do, sir or ma'am, and things of that nature. But in the end, the commander gets the photo finish across the tape. And when you go outside that door, it's like, your commander's idea is your idea. It's the best idea in the world. Unless it's illegal or immoral, it's going to get somebody killed. It's totally different. But yeah, great thoughts, sir.
And I see that being a two-way street. You're absolutely right, Chief. When if the chief comes in and gives their best, not just military advice, but their best human advice, and then when they leave, you bet they're in accord. And the expectation is the chief's not going to go run into the CSS and start running his mouth about what the commander decided. Conversely, as a commander, it is also your responsibility to respect the person who gave you the advice. And don't you run out of that room and start talking with your vice or start talking with all your group commanders if you're a wing commander saying, guess what harebrained idea the chief just brought me? Because this has got to be a two-way street, because respect can't just be one way flowing down. It cannot just be the fact that, the subordinate has got to give the respect to the superior, but the superior never has to have the gumption or the maturity to be able to have that respect work in the opposite way as well. It's a two-way street. And if you don't, then you are abdicating, you are truly abdicating your leadership responsibility on a very human level.
Great thoughts. Hey, amen. I hear you. I just think we as it goes to, when you talk about lieutenants earlier, sir, I try to tell senior NCOs like how critical it is for them to groom lieutenants.
Yes.
You'll find the majority of good commanders as they move through their career. They move on and become squadron commanders, 06s, generals. When a young airman asks them about their career, they usually always say or go back to when this master sergeant or this seer or chief gave them some life lesson that kind of sharpened them. And that's why I tell them like how critical their role is to set the example. And not only that, in front of the airmen too. I don't care if the lieutenant is brand new. When the lieutenant comes in the room, you stand up. Because the moment you don't do that, other airmen see that, they just assume, oh, it's the lieutenant, he's brand new, well, he or she's brand new. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And I can't remember if we talked about it the last time, but this is I think a good time, since we're on the discussion about how critical that senior NCO and chief mentorship is for the officers. And so I'll talk about a time that I personally failed. And I was the squadron commander out at the 786 Security Forces Squadron at Sembach in Germany. And it was, what a dream assignment. Like, that assignment developed me in so many different ways. And, we happened to have a situation that came to play where the squadron had a couple great things that were taking place on the same day. Number one, the squadron had won the USAFE Volunteers Unit of the Year award. Huge, doing great stuff. And then we had a promotion ceremony that was taking place later in the day. And so the two events, the event in the morning with the for the volunteer, that was, I needed to be in service dress, my chief needed to be in service dress, and the representatives of the unit needed to be in service dress so we could receive the award from the USAFE commander. In the afternoon, it was going to be BDUs. And yeah, right on. We were going to be in BDUs in the afternoon for the promotion ceremony. And something got jacked up. Somehow on the calendar, they got input inversely. And so we were in BDUs at the wrong place, or at the right place at the wrong time.
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, the ceremony in service dress was taking place on another side of the base, in which my group commander needed to get up and accept the award on our behalf because we were no-shows.
Oh, no.
That was a rough one. It was a rough one. And there's a whole litany of things that we could go back to. Somehow, somewhere, the appointments got reversed. There was no malintent on our part. We were all in the uniform we thought we were supposed to be in the place that we thought we were supposed to be in, and we weren't. And the group commander was livid. Him and I were already having a little bit of trouble at that point in time. So this was putting icing on the cake. Yeah. And so he was keeping the award sitting on the corner of his desk, and he would not give the award until I came to apologize to him.
Wow.
This would be another discussion. We get into hold on to other leadership lessons there. Now, on the flip side, I was looking at it from this level of, we didn't mean it. We weren't at fault. We did what we thought we were supposed to do. And so in my mind, there was this justice complex going on where I wasn't able to see through the trees. I was so focused on, why are we getting punished like this? Because we thought we were doing the right thing, and this is where we were told to be.
Right.
And this went on for a couple weeks. And him and I weren't talking to each other.
Mm.
And so finally, at the end of the day, at the time he was a senior master sergeant, but he was my chief and later became Chief Mark Marson. And Mark came in my office and said, "Hey, boss, you got a second?" And he shut the door and we came and sat down. And he goes, "I need to let you know that you are failing your squadron." He said, "I understand, but right now, because of the relationship that you are having with the group commander, it is now spilling into the squadron, and our airmen or NCOs are being affected by that. And so, boss, we need you to do the right thing and just go take your licks and go apologize, and let's get this back on track." And like in the old cartoons where all of a sudden, like the heel of a shoe, your head would turn into, I felt like a heel. I felt like everything just dropped. I felt horrible because everything that Chief Marson had said was correct. And he knew me, like him and I had a wonderful relationship, which is why what he said was so impactful to me, because he needed to call me out on where I was letting my own personal blinders negatively impact the squadron, and I needed him to help me see. And he did. And I went in that next day because it was too late at that point. I went in that next day and I sat down and I did exactly what I needed to do for the squadron. And that was apologize profusely, take my licks, and try to get us back on the right track. And things fundamentally changed after that. And so that's why that relationship is so important.
Man,
That's
a great
big. I
story.
think if you didn't have if he didn't have your respect, not only as a chief but as a person, he probably wouldn't be able to affect your, change your mind or have you see it another different way. But that respect there of who he
Absolutely.
was kind of, helps you get there.
Absolutely.
That's a great story. I love hearing stories like that. We'll go back to the academy. I just want to kind of piggyback back on that.
Yeah.
How do you, as a commander and any level of command, I hate to say this like this, deal with stress? Because if you're stressed, like you said, the whole squadron feels it. And even myself as a first sergeant now, I know my commander's stressed. I could feel it. Everybody could feel it. How do you deal with that, with trying to navigate what we need to do for the squadron, but also deal with your own personal stress or work stress, whatever it is?
And I think that there's all kinds of great bits of advice that are out there. Make sure you have a workout plan, eat right, all this kind of stuff. But to your point, Pete, sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes the intensity is so strong that it is, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're not working out, and all of that stuff does take its toll. The reality is, it is not something that you can all of a sudden, as a commander, say, I'm not going to let stress affect me. This is something that you needed to be working on years ahead of time, so that by the moment you got to that place, you were prepared for it. And I in interviews that I've had in different scenarios, I would get asked a question like, what do you think has prepared you for this job? And I would say, depending on how many years I've been in, well, the last 23 years prepared me for this job. There wasn't a single event. There wasn't something that I did. There wasn't a course I took, because like we've talked before, like I have this fundamental belief that leadership is a human experience. And so it's all of those human things that are taking place over the course of your career, and how you deal with stress as a lieutenant is going to impact how you deal with stress as a colonel or as a general if you keep yourself unchecked. And so if you're not the kind of person who is realizing that as a lieutenant, you've got kind of a hot head and under stress, you'll start, firing for effect. Either somebody's going to pull you aside and say, "Hey, LT, we need to help you with this," or you have that moment of clairvoyance where you say, "Shoot, I cannot live like this. Number one, I'm going to have a heart attack at 35. Number two, I am not doing my people a service. So somewhere along the way, for some people, they'll come to realization at different times than others. But in dealing with stress and understanding how important it is that a leader or an NCO or whatnot is a source of stability. We're all human beings. We're going to have bad days. And we're going to have days where our fuse is short, and we're going to have days where everything is going wrong. What I always try to do is just be transparent about it. When I walk into the office and I was like, everybody, I just want to let you know, you don't need to walk on eggshells, but I slept terrible last night. I got something rested on my spirit. Everything's going wrong. So I just want to let you know, like, hey, I'm going to try to do the best I can, but I'm not in my best place right now.
Love that.
They appreciate it, because then at least in the beginning, you're kind of telegraphing it, saying, hey, I'm a human being. I'm having a moment, which we all have. I just need your help in helping me today.
Mm.
And likewise, they'll appreciate. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I say I like that. That's you don't see too many people is able to do that, especially in a senior position, be able to just be honest and transparent with the folks that's in their unit, and just say, like, I'm just having a bad day. I'm not my best version of myself. So I like that it tells people, one, that you're a human being, you don't mind sharing. You didn't go into
Yeah.
detail, but they know. And then not only that, they may try to do something to kind of help you get back on center.
Absolutely.
Or if
Absolutely.
you're short, it's nothing against them. It's just you having, one of those days.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I think, see that as weakness. And so they'll keep this facade up. And then all of a sudden it just drops out at the wrong time. And like I said, you're firing for effect on people, and they're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Yet for some reason in your mind, you felt that you would come across as stronger and more respected if you didn't just come in and say, hey, everybody, this is where I'm at today. I just probably need you. Let's clear a few other things off the calendar. Let's give me a little bit more space, and we'll make it through. And I think that actually makes you more respected. It actually makes you more courageous. It actually makes you more sincere and more effective, because, for crying out loud, we're all in this together. And I think that sometimes people feel like even as you get higher and higher in rank, that somehow you have to change this appearance about yourself. And I just can't disagree with that more. Yes, there is an expected level of professionalism and standards. People don't want to clown as a commander. But is there a time for a little bit of good-natured humor or a little bit of sarcasm, especially if you've got Pete in the room? You can't help yourself. The jokes write themselves.
Oh, that's crazy.
So there's time for that. There's time for a little bit of levity and time to smile and things like that. So at least it doesn't make life so oppressive. But you're not being a clown when you do that. And then at the moment that they need to be serious and that you need to be serious, people know, because you've been transparent about it. Boom, they're on point. They're listening to what you got to say. And I think that investment on a very human level actually garners somebody more respect than simply trying to, double down on the rank and the position.
Right.
Yeah. I love that, because you have to be aware, especially in the position you are. You're going to have so many people that it's eager to please, especially in those meetings and such. And they've got to be able to see a different side of you.
Yes.
Because if all they can see is just one side, and then that one side is a little bit more amplified because you're having a rough week or something happened to you, they're going to be walking on eggshells. You don't want people to feel like when they're coming to work, it's like a time bomb ticking.
Absolutely.
You want them to feel like, now you want them to be on point, because you don't want them to give you any bullshit. Excuse my language.
Yeah. No,
but you want them to come in as professionals and be like, it's nothing personal. Just don't bullshit me. Just nothing personal. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you could get. You're a little late on the beat, but that's all right.
It's hard to catch up. It's hard to catch up to.
Yeah, but I mean, you can do that, and you can do those things, and you can be a leader that people would follow to where and back. But you are still the kind of leader that they want to come up to at a social event and just spend time with you.
Yeah.
Man, it takes
And so
a lot
I
of
think,
humbleness to be able to balance those two together.
I like
yeah,
that. I
A
like that.
lot, a lot. As we only got about 10, 15 minutes with
Yeah.
you left, I don't want to be remiss without mentioning your time at the academy is coming to the end, like you mentioned. So,
yeah.
what is next for General Sherman and the Sherman family?
So Lori and I are absolutely honored that we have been selected to be the next commander of the Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center down in San Antonio, Texas, which I know Chief Counsel knows pretty well.
Luckily, you're getting a new chief. Luckily, you're getting a new chief as you arrive, but luckily, your chiefs are changing out.
Oh man, I think Chief Counsel just froze up.
No,
I'm not frozen.
He's
I'm
not
just-
frozen.
Well, you were frozen a different way. And so
I'm not.
yes.
You know what, sir? I'm not paying no mind. Like you said earlier, your most trusted person is your chief. Notice you didn't say first sergeant. So
That's fine. I know we number two. We not be number one. We number two.
But we are so excited to go there. So as a young colonel, I worked in AFI-MSC, both at the headquarters and then as a detachment commander. So when I finished up the training group there at Lackland, I rolled over to the headquarters and I was working as, now they've gone to an A staff structure, but it was IZ working in installation support as the deputy for a great SES I worked for, Mr. Dave Dentino. And I got a chance to just really understand the civil engineering world. I mean, that job and the exposure that I had and the involvement that I had in CE and logistics was huge in helping me for Wing Command. And so I spent a little over a year in that job. And then they asked if Lori and I would come out here to Colorado Springs. And I was the AFI-MSC Detachment 1 commander to AF Space before Space Force stood up. And I was working with General Raymond and his team out there at Peterson. And so I really got a great introduction to space, understood really the infrastructure challenges on many installations across the Air Force, but then also the concepts of base resiliency and things along those lines, all of that really, really helped me in Wing Command. So I think coming back to AFI-MSC is huge. We are just super excited about it. And I believe in what the organization does.
that's great to hear. We're lucky to have you, sir. I know there's some things have changed since you last left, especially with all the work we're doing in
Yeah.
Afrigen and across the Air Force. And like you said, they change in A staff structure. So I guess if I were to ask you, what do you think? What I don't want to do is get ahead because I know you're going to talk about this when you take the C.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are you looking forward to the most with coming back to AFI-MSC after all of your experiences?
So something that I was just incredibly impressed with was how incredibly. Whoop, you all right there, Pete?
No, this is not Chief
you
Counsel.
was going to say you was impressed with Chief Counsel.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Chief, we were impressed with you a long time ago. Doesn't matter what Pete says. But I just like the reach and the diversity of mission is phenomenal. And I mean, when you think of a global enterprise that has that much impact on the success of the Air and Space Force, to me, it's awe-inspiring. And so I think getting into that, something that I'm really excited about is especially, the direction that we've been going for, really on the focus that the Department of the Air Force has taken us, the work that we're doing in the Pacific right now, things that we're looking at from, all of the great power competition work that I had an opportunity to be involved with earlier. Now I'm in a place where I can legitimately be a part of the team that is affecting and actualizing it. And so from that level, I think that's probably where my excitement is through the roof. Plus, I love the construct of getting a chance to be also back immersed with our centers. Security Forces Center, Civil Engineering Center, our Services Center, Financial Management Center of Excellence, all of the centers that fall underneath the oversight of AFI-MSC. There are airmen that are associated with all of them and the reach that they have in affecting those airmen. And so for me, I think that's a pretty on a very human level, like that's very exciting for me to get back into that.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You're at 30 years now.
Yeah.
How long you think you're going to do this?
So Lori and I talked about this a lot. And for us, and for those that know us, her and I are very much a team. Like we do everything together. And she comes to as many things as she can. We're going to stay on the train as long as the Air Force will let us stay on. And then when the train pulls into the last station, we'll start a new chapter of life. But until then, we love what we're doing. And, I'm not ready to leave while I still have this much passion and this much love for what we do and what our people do.
Mm-hmm. Well said. And then how much did Pete pay you to do his retirement?
My goodness
ceremony?
gracious. Oh my goodness gracious.
I can neither confirm nor deny any of that. and this system isn't at the right classification level for us to have this.
Thank you, Jeremy.
We may have to talk about that one over a beverage and a smoke.
Exactly. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I like that. It's not the right classification level.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Pete, we'll talk later.
Yes, sir. Basically, he said, Chief, you don't have the right clearance. That's basically what he said.
I'm not sure it was exactly that, but it was.
That's close.
I get you, sir. I get you.
Awesome.
Man.
It's going to be great to see you at IMSC and what you do for IMSC and team. For myself, looking from the outside in as I will be, but looking forward to it, to seeing what's going on. Any last thing I guess I want to ask as we're about to go, anything that you have to say for those that are about to graduate the academy, enter the academy, or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the thing that I have been letting our cadets know, and I've used this also for our airmen when I've talked to them, for our cadets, I'm giving them a little different spin. And one of the things that I make sure that they understand is that in our Air and Space Force, we have got airmen and guardians that are coming to us from all parts of this country. They're coming to us with a different story, a different background. For whatever reason, there was something inside of them that had them walk into the door to the recruiter and say, I want to sign up for the Air or Space Force. Mm-hmm. And so some of them came to us from phenomenal families with great backgrounds and neat opportunities. And something said, hey, I want to serve before I go on to whatever I'm doing, or maybe that's their calling. We got some people that grew up as Air Force brats, and that term is an incredible term of endearment and pride. And this is a part of the family business. And we've got some people that didn't grow up with two nickels to rub together. And for some of them, like coming into the service, coming into the Air Force is a place where they can stand on their own 2 feet and truly make something of themselves. And this is an opportunity environment for them to go as far as they can. For our cadets, each of them have a story much like that. But what I'm impressing upon them is that when they are graduating here, they are graduating somewhere between the age of 22 and 24 years old. They will have more responsibility before the age of 25 that some people will have in their entire lifetime. And that is huge. When you place that level of responsibility on the shoulders of a 22 to 24-year-old and say that you are responsible for the life and well-being of other human beings, you are responsible for the employment of multi-million-dollar weapon systems, that is a testament to the faith that we have and what we have entrusted in them. And for Lori and I, as we're spending our time around a lot of cadets trying to do as much engagement as we can before we go, like I am encouraged by the character of some of these amazing young Americans that we have going through the halls of this institution. And so as I'm in the autumn of my career, knowing what we have for people in the springtime of their career, it is pretty phenomenal to see what we're doing. And I am encouraged by how we are developing to be the best they can for our airmen and guardians.
Yeah, awesome. It gets me so fired up. That's so awesome. Go ahead, Chief.
No, well said. I was going to say just as always, thank you for being on here. You are really, you might say you are an unpopular celebrity yourself, being here 2 times already.
Right on.
And I've always admired, especially after seeing you in action at the Security Forces Symposium about 2 years ago, giving that one speech that you gave that nearly brought the house down. So we are excited to have you in IMSC here in August. Excited about all the things you're going to do. And you're a real one, sir. I'll give you that. You
Thank
are
you.
a real one. So
Thank you.
look forward to all the good things you're going to do. And again, thank you for being here on with us. And again, I pass you my condolences, my heartfelt condolences.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, gentlemen. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I want to say is going to lead me to my retirement speech a little bit, but I won't go into it too much. But Robert Avdaka, this was not planned, Chief. He said Sergeant Peterson is one for humor, but when we locked in, we locked in. One of my favorite tech sergeants back in the day. I will say I learned that from you, General. When you were a colonel, I have learned from watching you that we can have fun, but I also knew when it was time for Pete to get the hell out the room. For y'all to handle business.
Which happened
really
often.
Right.
Which happened often.
I can realize that you have taught me when it was time to lock in, as we did for your promotion ceremony, it was time to work. And I really admire and appreciate me knowing the difference. When it was time to work, it was work time. And then when it was, we can have some fun and let our hair down a little bit, we could do that as well. And we're still the same human beings, the same respect, the same professionalism all the time. And I try to carry that forward. I'm sure I failed. I'm sure I'll continue to fail, but I tried to get that from you. I really, really did.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
Sir. But
are we sure he meant Dominic Peterson or some other Peterson? Because you know that's a common last name.
This is crazy. I don't know why you keep the friends that I do sometimes. Like I just glut for punishment.
I just can't believe, sir. I just can't believe you actually was his commander. Like you gonna do a ceremony? He didn't drive you up the wall. I'm shocked.
Oh, I'm sure I did. Oh,
I am
shocked.
You
must have to tell him you lock it in quick just to get him out your office.
I needed Pete to stop bugging, so I said I'll do it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that also.
But Pete, I can't fault you. I mean, it worked like a charm. In all seriousness, I'm happy to do it. What I have been incredibly pleased about is watching your growth, and you being a first sergeant like that. I could not think of a better position for you to be in at the time of retirement. Knowing your personality and the path to get there, being the shirt, I think is a huge honor, and I think it's ideal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you here in a few weeks.
General, I appreciate that. Looking forward to having you. Chief, don't say a word because you'll be
at the retirement.
It's crazy. But General, we always leave you with the last word, our guests with the last word. So, sir, over to you. And like Chief said, my condolences to you as well, as you're going to take off tomorrow. So, last word for you.
I think I'll just keep it simple and just say, thank you all out there watching Unpopular Celebrities on what you do for our force. Every single one of you has an incredible impact on our ability to just be the family and the organization that we are. And please know that it is not lost on us the time, heart, and effort that you put into everything you do. Whether you are leaving a thumbprint on somebody's soul, being a frontline supervisor, or whether you are looking up the chain, figuring out the best way that you can be the absolute best airman that you can at the time and the place that you are needed most. Know that you are seen, know that you are appreciated, and know that you are a part of a tremendous family. And the lineage and the things that we do together are not only writing in the pages of history right now, but they're going to be guaranteeing our future. And so I just want to let you know what an honor it is to serve with all of you and how excited I am about the days that lie ahead. Thank you very much.
Damn. That's how you do it. Hey, nothing more to say after that.
Unpopular Celebrities, we out of here. We'll see y'all in a couple weeks or a couple days or a couple months or whenever we coming on again. Y'all see us again. Appreciate it. Major General Sherman, y'all go back and watch this. Watch it again. Watch it again. Chief, anything?
Go Birds.